was born to kill it. I was meant to win. I am down and willing, so I will find a way. It took a minute, now it didn't happen right away. When it get hot in the kitchen, you decide to stay. That's how it winners made. Stick a fork in the hater on my dinner plate. I walk into the fire like it's just a bit of flame. I switch my style up, watch the money pile up. I'ma get rich with life.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Clydesdale Media Podcast, where we are highlighting the athletes of the 2024 Legends Masters CrossFit Games. And I'm so honored and privileged to have with me tonight Claudia Ragsdale. What's going on, Claudia?
Hey, Scott. How are you doing?
I'm good. Got Holly in the chat. She says hello.
Hello.
And for people who don't know Holly, like when you see the links to all the fundraising t-shirts that we put out and all the stats and graphics, it's this girl.
Awesome. Very
She does
cool.
all that research, and she loves the Masters community.
That's awesome.
So, so Claudia, you are going to your first ever CrossFit Games.
I am. Yeah. Which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, you've been doing this since 2019?
Actually 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
So you have one of those split accounts on CrossFit?
Yeah, it's split on CrossFit. So like I started in like November of 2012, did my first open in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I saw the second version and then it didn't have a games appearance. I was like, well, it's either her second account or somebody that I don't know. So.
Yeah, it's weird how they have that split sometimes. And I think if you change your email address, it doesn't pick it up.
Yeah,
So.
if you change your email address or last name, there's a couple of reasons I've seen where it happens. So you're going to your first games. It's separated out. Are you excited about that? Were you more looking forward to it as part of the main show?
For the longest time, like I was looking forward to it as part of the main show, but I don't know. I've heard so many great things. I haven't done the Legends comp, but I've heard so many great things about, that team, Joe and Bob, that I'm excited to see what they do for us because I feel like they really know who we are, and from what I've seen, program pretty appropriately for us. So I'm excited to see what they're gonna throw at us.
So I got word that they had a meeting today with all the athletes up to 55. So I'm guessing your meeting is coming.
Yeah, tomorrow. We have a meeting tomorrow. Yep.
So are you excited about that meeting?
It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what they share with us, for sure.
Yeah, I've heard it's like duration of workouts, how many workouts, things like that. So, but not real big details.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to release anything to us ahead of time, or we're just going to find everything out when we get there. Right.
Yeah. I know that when they did Legends, they did not release them until we got there.
Okay. Well, that's good because then you don't have to stress about it.
Yeah.
You don't overthink things. I tend to think through things a lot.
Larry Young said, I personally thought it was dead at the games without the Masters there. I got to meet Larry at the games. It was so cool to finally meet him in person. For people to know, that's John Young's dad.
Oh, cool.
So that was cool meeting him there. So what's your background in sports?
So when I was in my youth, played a bunch of sports. So tennis, swam, played soccer. And then in high school, I played soccer all through high school. And then beyond that, pretty much, I also rode horses a lot when I was younger, but not super competitively. And then as I got out of college and was able to afford it, really dove into that passion because I just love that sport, the equestrian sports, and love horses. So I competed in 3-day eventing for quite a few years. I rode for about 20 years after college. So, and competed in 3-day eventing. So, that was my background coming into CrossFit, really.
There's a handful of athletes, elite athletes, that came from horse riding as a background. Jacqueline Dahlstrom, Annika Greer, they
Oh,
all
yes.
came from that background.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that sport for sure, like, makes you super strong in certain parts of your body, like your whole posterior chain gets super strong, right? Your legs are really strong. So coming into CrossFit, like I'd never touched a barbell. Um, and from the get-go, like my squat and my deadlift were pretty decent, so I think it was just a result of so many years of horseback riding. Um, so
Yeah. So everywhere where I found your name, it kind of said you're a health and wellness like aficionado nut. Um,
yeah, yeah, I'm
so-
super like I completely geek out on anything health and wellness, right? And fitness, like just that those are the rabbit holes I love to go down. Um, and also I feel like I love helping people too. So like I have friends or family like that are always reaching out asking me questions and I love to try and guide them to find answers or if I can share anything with them that'll help them along their journey, right? Like um super passionate about that.
are you able to do any of that for your employment?
Um I did coach for several years in CrossFit. It's always been kind of a side thing. So for my employment, spent many years working in the ad agency business, and then most recently I was at a consultancy doing tech implementation, and recently just transitioned to another opportunity helping a friend that I've known for years within the CrossFit community help them scale their small business. So I'm kind of working in that realm right now, but never really. I mean, the health and fitness thing, I would love to do that as a full time career. I think it takes time to build, right? Those
Right.
kinds of businesses. So, and I'm not in the position to do that at the moment. I've got a kid going off to college next year. So, like different things that I've got to consider as I make those decisions. But regardless, like just having coached CrossFit for many years in several different locations, that alone was, I mean, I didn't do it because of the money, obviously. It's like
Right.
it was really just because I loved like seeing people make progress and like helping them along their health journey. So it was that part of it's just super fulfilling.
Well, one, I just finished the college journey with my daughter. She's
Congrats.
out working in the real world. Um, and the other thing, so you had to leave coaching. Was it because like you just didn't have the time,
Yeah,
or yeah,
yeah, it was a time issue. So like when I transitioned into the tech consulting job, it was just really demanding of my time. So I just couldn't allocate it um, in order to keep doing that. But it's not to say that I wouldn't want to go back and do that again. I think it's just a matter of juggling everything.
yeah?
Job, two kids, and get trying to fit my training in. Everything else. So
So what kind of athlete, what kind of CrossFit athlete would you say you are?
definitely strength biased for sure. Yeah, like give me a barbell any day. I think for me, I'm probably like one of the larger athletes in my age group, I think. I think there's a lot of smaller athletes. So like for me, like I tend to not do as well in the open when it's like just purely like body weight endurance stuff. And then I tend to do better in like the qualifiers and semis when they bring in some other things into the mix. So although we've been working very hard on, all the things that are challenging for me. So I feel like we've made a lot of progress over the past couple years, which is great. Just, I mean, I love to train. So that's really the fact that I made it through is like icing on the cake because I just love to train and see the progress. So
Yeah. So how excited are you to be able to go and compete in person? You've done semis for a couple years. You
mhm,
you've done the age group online qualifier for years.
yeah.
Now you get to go on a competition floor against your peers.
Yeah, that's gonna be I just feel like I tend to always perform better in person, and I haven't done, like, a ton of individual comps, you know, at the last gym I was at that gym for over 10 years, and, like, there was a huge masters community there, and so I had done, like, a ton of team competitions, and it's like you definitely I mean, the adrenaline definitely puts you on another level, right, when you're doing those in-person comps that is just different, so I'm definitely looking forward to, like, see how much I can push past what I think my limits might be. Because, a lot of times that atmosphere just makes you achieve things that, you maybe thought you couldn't before. So that part of it's super fun.
It's kind of like an interesting study because all the online stuff, you don't know how fast to go, right? You don't know what anybody else is doing, and you're trying to push to the best you can.
Yeah.
Then in person, you may have someone that comes out like a shot, and you got to be careful not to go with them.
Absolutely. I think part of that too is just knowing how you are as an athlete, right? And knowing like where you need to make your moves, and where you need to just stay in your own lane, right? Like, and manage your capacity because, I think and I've done this before, like in class workouts too, or, where you're kind of getting caught up in like trying to catch someone and then it's like you blow up. So I think just over time learning like how you can manage different movements and like the volume and like what your capacity is. I think those things you just have to stay in your lane from that perspective. And then knowing when you can push, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know certain workouts, it's like people will pass me on one movement and then I'll pass them on something else, right? So it's just like knowing where you can push, right?
Yeah. When I first started CrossFit, there was a guy who we competed every night in class, right? He was a better runner than me. I was a better lifter than him.
Same
Like,
here.
and I just had to get good enough to keep up with him, right?
Mhm.
So that when we got back to the barbell, I could cycle faster.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and it's so with this being your first time, you don't really know the people around you. You're going to meet them for the first time this weekend.
Yeah, I'll meet him for the first time, but I feel like I've been seeing these names on the leaderboard for 10 years, right? Like, so it's like it's the same women that have been moving up in those age groups, and it's kind of the same. And some people filter in and out for different reasons, right? Maybe life things or injuries or whatnot. But for the most part, I think it's a core little group, and you can kind of follow their journey as well on social media and kind of follow them a little bit and get to know a little bit of what they do. So it'll be exciting to meet them in person because I mean, some of these women, I feel like it's cool to see like what we're able to achieve at our age. So it's almost like inspiring to be like, hey, if they can do this, well, it's not impossible for me to try and do that as well, right? So I think it's
Yeah.
encouraging to see their journeys and like try and like just keep pushing, right? Because it is possible. So
I think one of the most fascinating things is, and I see this in the masters community, is you're in the corrals together, you're in the warm up area together. And after a weekend, it's like you've hung out for 4 straight days
yeah,
and you leave like really, even though you're competitors, you leave really good friends.
yeah, yeah. I've heard that. I think that's exciting. That's fun. I think masters is a different environment, right? I mean,
Right.
for sure, everyone's still competitive and wants to do really well, but I think there's definitely like a camaraderie there that kind of, um, because I think we're all just happy to be able to do this, right? It's like so cool that we can be doing this at our age. So, um, and achieving the things we are achieving. Like I've shocked myself so many times, right, over the years,
Yeah.
with what I can do. So it's really cool.
It's that thing where, yeah, you want to compete, but this isn't number one priority for most masters athletes, right?
Right.
You
There's
want to
no
do
fame
other,
or fortune, right? We're not doing this
right?
for fame or fortune. It's
And
like,
you work full-time jobs, you have families, that you have to prioritize over your own training.
yeah, for sure. It's like just fitting it in, juggling it in, or figuring out how to fit it in. Either before, after, and between. you know,
Which
um,
makes what you guys do all that more impressive.
yeah. But honestly, for me, I feel like my training is like the one time, like it's my time, so it's like I get to focus and not have to think about everything else I have to do. Right? It's like my peaceful time where I get to just focus on my training, and then I feel recharged, refreshed, and then can come back and like deal with everything else I need to deal with, right? So it's
Yeah.
almost like it rebalances and like resets, the system.
So how did you find CrossFit in the first place?
So funny story, like I had no idea what CrossFit was. And after I had my daughter, I'd been working with a friend of mine who I rode horses with for a long time, and she was a personal trainer. So I told her I need to start moving again, get back in shape. So I worked with her for a little while, and then started just buying like different like Groupons to boot camps and things like that. And I happened to just buy one for CrossFit and ended up showing up. And the gym I had joined at that time was a very small gym. They literally had just opened. It was a group of young adults that had left another gym they were originally at and like started their own gym. And there was like only a couple of us in. I remember I went to the 6 a.m. class, and they were so excited and like, "Do you know what CrossFit is?" I'm like, I have no idea. It's like a boot camp, right? Little did I know. But yeah, and I think for me what I loved, because I've never really been like a gym person. I've always loved being like outdoors more, but I think what hooked me was just the fact that it's never the same. It's always different, and like you can always make it harder. Like you can always get better, right? And there's always something to like try and learn, and different skills to try and acquire. So just that like chasing those things, it becomes addicting, I think, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to figure out how to master it. Um,
And nobody ever masters it.
no one masters it. I mean, you definitely get better, and then it just gets harder because you try to master things that are more difficult or challenging, right?
Right.
Um, but I think that pursuit is definitely addicting and super fun. And I for sure have like I definitely came into it having limiting beliefs of what I could do. And I feel like over time, it's like you just kind of start to embrace like the failure is what leads you to the next stage. Cause I for sure have always like early on was like trying to get it exactly right and be a perfectionist, right? But it's like I feel like it let me kind of let go of all that and just failure is part of the process. And it's like that's the only way you're gonna move forward, right? By letting it be messy. So I've grown a lot just as a person too through my whole CrossFit journey, right? I feel like it's expanded my mindset to embrace that discomfort of like getting through the messy part to get to the acquisition of the skill you want. So
So you said you were buying Groupons for all kinds of things. When you
yeah.
did the CrossFit, did it stop your Groupon buying?
Oh yeah. 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 I pretty much signed up for a membership like within a month. So, and then pretty much never looked back. I mean, I've pretty much been consistent since 2012, other than having like a couple things here and there, like 2014, right after the age group online qualifiers, my appendix ruptured like weeks after that. So I was out for a bit there, and really just I was swimming to recover from that. And then when I came back, you jump in and you get a little caught up in trying to get back to everything. And then my core wasn't as strong as it had been earlier. So then my back was like not feeling great. So I feel like it was just like a journey. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I had kind of a hiatus from the open, like in 2015 and 2016, where I literally just did class. Um, and then I did the open in 2017, and I almost made the online qualifiers, but I literally had just been doing an hour class, that whole time. So I'm like, then that fired me up again to like, hey, if I actually try and like work on some of these, you know, things that I'm not the greatest at and put some effort behind it, maybe I can make the qualifiers. So
So so what does a training day look like now? Do you still just do the
um
class and some accessory work or
no, I pretty much have been working with like one-on-one coaches, like as far as like getting programming for well, probably since 2014, and then took a little bit of a break. I don't know if I took a break, but like basically was doing class, and then I do like a little bit of accessory work on the side early on. And that then evolved to like full programming, full individualized programming. And that probably was like starting in, I want to say like, yeah, like 2017, 2018. Um,
And how
So,
many hours a day is that?
um, it varies. I would say maybe, I mean, right now it's like prepping, honestly, like this is probably like the most I've trained ever, right? Just doing like double sessions. So like maybe like an hour session in the morning and then a couple hours in the afternoon, like 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon. And then my weekends are usually pretty long, like 3 to 4 hours. And that's pretty much I usually have gotten like a bigger sessions in on the weekends always, just because I have more time. Um, so during the week in the past, it's been maybe a couple hours each day, um, but definitely heavier right now, just as we're leading up and building. So
So you're in the 55 to 59-year-old division, and you're
yeah, and
doing that many hours of training a day. That is remarkable.
yeah, I think that's the time frame, but not all of it is obviously like metcons and things like that, right? There's a lot of bodybuilding in there. There's mobility. There's a little bit of everything, right? Zone two work, so it's a mix, right? So it's not. I don't know. And it was definitely early on when I was in CrossFit. When I first started, I definitely like overtrained, like way overtrained. Even though I was just doing class sometimes too, it's like just doing that high intensity all the time was like just beat me up. And I think over the years I've learned like it's it's just not sustainable, right? And especially as I've gotten older, it's like it's definitely not sustainable. So it has to be more of a mix of like bodybuilding, like gymnastic skill work, right? Um, and the metcons come at appropriate times, but I would say it's not an everyday thing, right?
Yeah, and you listen to your body, right? Like if it's a day where you just don't have it, just back it down, get through it.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like too, like even just well, having gone through like this life transition, right, in the menopause period years. I mean, I've been working with M2 performance nutrition since 2018 because as you get into like, I remember it was one of the qualifier workouts and I was doing a rowing work, which usually rowing's great for me, but I like could not hold a row pace and I literally was overheating. And I didn't know what was going on at the time, but obviously I was kind of getting into that transition period of life, right? Where like I couldn't regulate my body temperature. So, and that's kind of when it had started, you know. Um, so I think like going through that, definitely just having like the help of a nutrition coach, like just kind of helping like to navigate that whole thing has been super helpful. And just doing a lot of research. Like I think there's a lot of great resources out there. Stacy Sims, Dr. Stacy Sims is great from a female hormone perspective, and she specializes in athletes and performance. So a lot of great people that you can tap into and reference and follow that have some good suggestions and science backed information. Um,
So
that's
I gotta ask the question from a nutrition standpoint, that you could reduce the side effects or the symptoms of menopause.
um, it's definitely, I would say it's kind of more managing them, right?
Okay.
So, like hydration super important. Um, things that certain things can be disruptive to your gut, which also affects your hormones, right? So, just looking at things holistically, and sleep is obviously disrupted during that period of life as well. And when I say nutrition, like obviously, when you get nutrition coaching, so much of it is more than just nutrition itself, right? Like it's kind of more lifestyle. So, like reducing your stress, because when your estrogen goes down, you become more susceptible to stressors, right? I mean, there's all these different factors um, to think about and maybe to try and optimize. Um, our the way that we process sugars also is impacted. I mean, there's just a lot of things that are impacted, right? So I think the one thing that we know for sure that becomes super important is protein intake, right? Because our estrogen drops, the only way for us to maintain muscle is to really do the heavy lifting and again getting the protein to be able to sustain putting on muscle or maintaining muscle is super important, especially as we go through that stage of life and beyond. So yeah, I think there's a lot of just considerations that are helpful, right, to ensure you can recover appropriately from your training, and then just try and help manage like your stress, your sleep, um, hydration. Like when your estrogen drops, also like you don't your receptors as far as thirst receptors are off, so it's easier for you to get dehydrated. Um, all these little things that you learn along the way, right? But I think having that knowledge helps you better optimize like your performance, your training, and just how you feel overall. So
Jeffrey Birchfield, that's interesting. Never thought about menopause and performance. And Holly says, all those pesky hormones.
yep.
Yeah, that's a really interesting like thought and subject to kind of dive into. And Mike Malloy, who started M2, is just
Yeah.
one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, Mike's fantastic. Yeah, he's
And
great.
he remembers everybody's name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I met him for the first time. I went to Power Monkey one year, and I'd met him there for the first time. And yeah, he's just super knowledgeable, and he has a great team in place there as well. So
Yeah.
I feel fortunate to be working with them.
Power Monkey, that's another subject that's something I would love to do sometime in the future.
Oh yeah, that's a great experience too. Another great team of people and coaches. And I think like any opportunity I've over the course of time, it's like any opportunity you get to be around other folks in the CrossFit community, I feel like you walk away with so many new friends, right? So
Yeah.
from Power Monkey, and then also the coach I've been working with, like he had a training camp. And so I went to that and got to meet a ton of people. I met John Young there actually, because he was being coached by the same coach. And it's like you walk away and all of a sudden you have all these new friends, right?
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I've met Dave Durrani. He's been on our show before, and he's the one who
Okay.
created Power Monkey.
Yep.
He's just one of the coolest dudes too. Man, you know all the cool people.
They have a great opportunity there for anyone who's interested. I think it's definitely something worth considering going to if you can swing it.
Yeah, they have like experts in every field. And you can go to different workshops and work on what you need to work on. I know like Dave Newman from RX Smart Gear's there for jump roping there. Margot Alvarez goes a lot.
Yeah.
Fee Sagafi goes. So I know they have a lot of really high-end athletes too.
Yeah, they had when I was there, where some of the Brew athletes were there, and then also Chris Henshaw was there. I mean, it's just everyone that they have on the team. Mike Service and Chad, and everyone's just fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
So back to you in the games. What are your expectations this year?
honestly, like I'm just excited to see what I can do, and see where I'm at. I obviously have a very good understanding of things that are challenging for me. So I can easily look at the workouts and be like, okay, this is going to be great for me. This one's going to be a little bit, more of like strategizing and figuring out how to manage it. But I'm excited to just meet people. And then as far as expectations, I really have no expectations as far as like placement, because I feel like there's always things that I would love to be further along as far as mastery, but it'll be a good test to see where I'm at. And I feel like sometimes when you're in those environments, it's like in training, you might not think you're able to do something, but then when you're in those environments, all of a sudden you're like pulling it off, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm just happy to be there. I honestly like I'm excited to have that opportunity to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of those athletes that's the roller coaster, right? I'll win an event and then I'll finish dead last. And then middle of the pack, win, dead last. Because my bias is all in one direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, definitely gymnastics are definitely more challenging for me. I never did gymnastics as a kid. And when you're trying to learn it when you're like in your 50s, right? It's like takes a little longer with coordination and just like body awareness and all that. And even just like for me, it's like I feel like in certain things, like I have the strength like to handstand walk, but how do you figure out how to breathe when you're upside down, right? Right? Like little things like that. It's like I'm always like asking people that I know that are gymnasts. I'm like, you have any tips for me? How do you breathe when you're upside down?
Yeah. So
Right.
you bringing anybody with you?
I have some family that's based on the East Coast, and so they'll be coming out. Like my dad, my stepmom, and a couple sisters will be coming out to cheer me on and watch. And then there's a couple from our gym whose sister-in-law is going to be competing also in the same age group, so they'll be coming out. So it'll be fun to see them out there as
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
You have a coach coming?
I do. So my coach is with Brute Strength. His name is Coach L,
Oh,
and
wow. You're with Coach L.
yeah, so I've been with him since November of 22. Um, and so he'll be there. And then I think Lindsay also, who's the gymnastics coach for Brute, is also going to be there. So it'll
That'll
be
be
good.
great.
Yeah,
So
like
lots of
it'll
support.
be my first comp with him, so it'll be
Yeah.
fun.
Hey, you're at the CrossFit Games. You need all the support you can get, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just more. I feel like it's going to be like, okay, here's how do we want to approach this, right? Like just trying to like stay calm and focused and enjoy it, right?
Yeah. Well, Claudia, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for taking the time out to do this. My team will be down there. We're going to record a behind the scenes
That's awesome.
of the Masters CrossFit Games. So Ellie Hiller and myself will be in the back, just chatting with you guys and recording all that. And then we'll have some people out front recording the workouts, and we'll mash it all together into a cool, however many events there are, that's how many episodes of the documentary will be.
That's great. I love that. I love that you're
Um,
doing that for us, you know.
yeah, I mean, you guys deserve it. You've come all this way, and we want to highlight what masters do,
Mhm.
and I don't think anybody's taken the time to do this and highlight everything about it. And the stories you guys have are so much cooler. Like you've lived lives, right?
Right.
And so we want to share all those.
That's great. We appreciate you being there.
So with that, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everybody in the chat. And if you're watching, thank you. Support by hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see everybody next time on Clydesdale Media Podcast. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Bye.